Hello, internet friends. My name is Bay. Welcome back to the Shadowlands alpha coverage here on my YouTube channel. This is going to be the Outlaw Rogue first pass. And with every single thing I talk about with rogues, combo points, this class in particular, I don't have the muscle memory and I derp a lot and I kind of like just try to see what things work. And a couple people from the rogue community in the live stream today helping out with things, asked me to test this, poke that. We did figure some things out. And of course, I have notes about all those that I will go over in this video. But do not expect some like crazy, super high-end, ridiculous gameplay. The Dungeon Run VOD, if it actually exists on Twitch, there was a bit of an outage today. If it exists, it'll be down below in the description box as well as the other Rogue videos here in the overall playlist on YouTube. And of course, on the channel guide that does have everything available to you, all organized, put together, the overall videos, the dungeon runs, the overall testing VODs, and of course the videos here if you want to look at all those, all for you down there. But if you're here and potentially a new viewer of the channel, if you would like to hit that free subscribe button over here, that'll help me out to grow the channel. I'm trying to punch through 100K subs on the YouTube channel, on this here YouTube channel that I've been doing as mostly an archive of the back end of all this stuff for many, many years. So if you enjoy all of my talking head stuff, if you enjoy the podcast, of course, if you enjoy all this coverage, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Help me out if you would like to do so. Today, Outlaw Rogue. There are some initial notes, and in a weird way, this feels similar to what has been adjusted with Assassination and Subtlety, where there are a lot of changes, but not a lot of changes. So just to show the talent panel off real quick here, obviously I have some things right now that you might see when I start smacking some dummies, but you don't have a talent, missing one right down here, right? So you are obviously not going to have Slice and Dice as a talent choice because Slice and Dice is baseline for all rogues. So you don't need to have it as a talent, and this is a coming soon, as well as Find Weakness was up here for the Subtlety Rogue if you've watched that video. And obviously they don't have a new talent there just yet, so we'll have to wait and see what they're going to get. But some core functional new changes have happened that really kind of shape and mold and change how one might play any of these rogues. In particular, so maybe some smaller things, of course, here that are baseline. Cheap Shot is 1 combo point now. Okay. Shiv is also back for all rogues. Now, this is fine. It applies a concentrated form of your non-active lethal poisons. It does literally no damage. 20 energy, 25-second cooldown, 1 combo point awarded for doing so. And of course, again, poisons are back for rogues. So for the most part, you'll be either using your instant poison for Outlaw or wound poison. Wound poison now is a stacking heal reduction. It stacks 3 times if you are not Assassination and 5 times if you are. Then there's crippling poison. The chance to proc your poisons is 30% unless you're Assassination, the poison rogue. And the biggest change here, of course, is the addition of numbing poison and the possibility that you're able to put up all your non-lethals. So 1 lethal and 2 non-lethal poisons, allowing you to then shiv for a 70% snare for 5 seconds without having the chance to proc the slow. And the numbing poison active will dispel all enrage effects. This is still yet to be seen. We probably have builds coming up in the next couple of weeks. This might change, of course, and we'll see that all in the second pass. But the fact that the rogue already has so much utility, you already have Cloak, you already have Shroud, you already have so many on-demand stuns, you have good mobility, you have great survivability, you've got your evasion, you've got your freaking Estus Flask, you got Blind, you've got Vanish, you've got all these things. That you have Feint, which I know people are like, oh, well, Feint, but it's so good. And especially with elusiveness on fights that actually stacks together, where cheat death isn't going to be your only thing that you're going to worry about. Elusiveness, it's so good. All right, it's anyone cries in Shaman. Okay, I have 1 major defensive. All right. You have all these different things. Now you've got Shiv is back as well. And I wonder if this is part of how Blizzard is giving essentially something to every single class and or spec that isn't just, you know, Battle Shout or Fortitude or Int, right? Everyone brings something. Enhancement Shaman bringing back Wind Fury Totem. Little things like that. I think that's the whole point of what Blizzard is trying to accomplish in Shadowlands. Additional big things. What I see here, all the poisons, slice and diced. Yep. Baseline right here. 25 energy, 1 to 5 or 1 to 6, of course, with DS. 50% attack speed, not haste. Fleet-footed for all rogues also got a rank 2, where it reduces the fall damage you take. Sure. Neat. Big change here, which I really can't show you on these target dummies because they are not close enough together to do so. But a big one is Blade Flurry. And Blade Flurry over the course of Battle for Azeroth, as you may or may not know if you play a rogue or play an Outlaw Rogue or have heard the stories, the tales, Blade Flurry is very good. Blade Flurry has been changed. It almost feels like it's Flame Shock for the Outlaw Rogue. Cannot be a expansion without a Blade Flurry change. So currently, right now in the alpha, looking at a 15 energy on use. Still on the GCD. Obviously, your auto attacks are going to start Blade Flurrying there. Your main gauche are going to going off, right? Your combat potency procs, essentially, as well, with your offhand. And then, of course, your mastery. As I said in the Assassination Rogue video with Garrot or Garrot. Can I please get some pronunciations for main gauche? Only wrong answers, please. Only wrong answers for main Guga Chuga Chuga Chuga. But Blade Flurry is 4 nearby enemies. So the target you're hitting and up to 4 nearby. So 5 in total, I guess, if you want to count the target you're tunneling into. 40% of normal damage for 12 seconds. Dancing Steel, of course, adds the 5% more damage into it and 3 seconds more to the duration and the cooldown being 30 seconds. Now, before you freak out, before you put your hands in the air like Kronk, all right? Don't freak out. In my bad play, and in the dungeon run, we were doing this, and of course, you can watch the whole back end of the dungeon run in the actual overall How Are Rogues video. There are ways, and potentially, we don't have what's coming here, again, that might even sync up with the changes. But the Blade Flurry change is not a big deal. Because if you're AoEing and spending, and depending on your roll the bones, which more on that in a moment, Blade Flurry right now, right, has the 2 charges, which right now it's all targets around you. You have Acrobatic Strike, which is gone. You have Night Stalker here now, which may or may not have some crazy implications because of the change to Between the Eyes. More on that in a moment, because that syncs up with all of this. So you don't have your crazy, ridiculous, like bajillion yard circle around you that hits everything, right? It's the target and 4. It's cooldown going up to 30 seconds though. And the damage is buffed actually from 30% as the echo effect to 40. It's on Restless Blades. So Blade Flurry is up almost all of the time. And depending on, again, your roll the bones, it's 100% uptime. So it really isn't, you gotta maintain it because you're a rogue. You're gonna maintain Slice and Dice because you're a rogue, right? These things that you maintain is that Restless Blades allows you to reset Blade Flurry. And just this build right here, right? So I changed my build around a couple of times in the dungeon, but we'll just take, like, say, Vigor. We'll keep Alacrity. We'll take Dancing Steel just to show this off, and then we'll keep Quick Draw because the Quick Draw procs are obviously deal a little bit more damage as well if you're AoEing. But even on just one target, and if I just cast Blade Flurry, we'll cast our Roll the Bones, which I'll go over more in a moment, you're going to not really have a lot of downtime. It's going to be dependent upon what kind of proc percentage you get. If you're going all with your multi-target procs or not. We'll put Slice and Dice up too, right? Your AoE. So it's obviously down, but it's back. Waste a combo point there, but don't care. We'll hit Between the Eyes. You basically just want to spend combo points, right? Blade Flurry is up still. And it's up and it's back. right? And I'm stacking, obviously, Slice and Dice with Alacrity right now. So we're going to have tons of attack speed, tons of main Guagage procs. But it really isn't, it's not down at all, really. Roll the bones here. Big stuff. It isn't going to be a lot of downtime. So the whole charge thing right now on live is because there's no synergy with anything else, right? You just use your charges, that's it. And on live, you can do things with Dancing Steel to get, I think I tested this and talked about it. It's like you get 45 or so seconds strung together of Blade Flurry into Blade Flurry into Blade Flurry, and then it's just down for a while, right? But now you basically keep it up all the time in the rotation if you are AoEing. Now that, of course, immediately brings into question, you know, the Blade Rush synergy with Blade Flurry, being the non-primary target damage goes up to 100%, up from the, in this case, the 40, or the Dancing Steel version, which is the 45. So that has some rotational benefit in both, you know, the energy regeneration and a little bit of like rotationally bursty AoE. But we talked about, and I played with Killing Spree a bunch in the dungeon run, and Killing Spree right now has not received a buff related to BFA's damage scaling. We did see on Assassination Rogue that Crimson Tempest went up 30% in both the on-hit and the bleed. Currently, Killing Spree didn't get a buff, but bring up Killing Spree usually kills the rogue more often. I actually had a pretty fun play where I had to cloak Killing Spree to not die to an effect in the dungeon footage. So you'll see me derp and do that, but it was pro. I was like, oh. But Killing Spree is 100% of the damage to the nearby 4 enemy targets when you are doing it with Blade Flurry. So it is literally a DPS cooldown for AoE, and of course still syncs up with Restless Blades, which you overall, I kind of glossed over this earlier, but the overall back end of how often you use a finishing move now to get Ruthlessness to keep the extra free combo point is because how much you get Slice and Dice amplifies your mastery procs and your combat potency procs. And all that feeds into, of course, main Sinister Strike having the opportunity, either with Quick Draw, giving you bigger opportunity windows and the extra combo point, or Weapon Master giving you more chances to proc Sinister Strike, which is the double hit that hits you for 2 combo points there. And then, of course, if you have certain Roll the Bones, it could be 4 combo points on a proc. So the rotation is just like the other 2 rogues. The baseline is slower. And going into combat, it does feel like you kind of ramp up a little bit more than you may right now. Obviously, things in BFA are skewed by, say, essences and things of that nature. But we also don't know. I'm not doing Covenant testing right now. I'm not doing Soulbind testing because I really can't. At least not really openly to see how this all works through. So things are still like there's a baseline here, but the spec is slower at first. All the rogues are. And then once you get rolling, once you get your Roll the Bones up, once you get your Slice and Dice going, it does. Outlaw is usually the fastest one of the 3. And that's because of this steroid plus your mastery main, and then combat potency all stacking together, feeding into Restless Blades, you know, lowering the cooldown of Killing Spree or Blade Rush, or obviously Blade Flurry or whatever else that gets stacked up on here, as well as Roll the Bones. So Roll the Bones and Between the Eyes, the 2 other big adjustments that then smush this all together. Your buffs for Roll the Bones are Broadside, Ruthless Precision, which used to be Shark-Infested Waters, the de-pirating of your class in Legion, or Legion to BFA, rather. So it's still Shark-Infested Waters, right? It's the Shark Fin. Didn't proc it. Got True Bearing and Skull and Crossbones here. So Skull and Crossbones still remains the Sinister Strike, has a 30% additional chance of striking 8 additional time, which is big. Obviously, right, that would stack with Weapon Master or Opportunity. It's one of the good ones. They're all, I say one of the good ones. The only bad roll now is, I guess, Buried Treasure, because it's just the energy regeneration. It's the 4 per 1, which Koji was saying that they're all really close, within 1% or so of each other, but this might change because of what I'm about to go over, of course. But they're all the same, except Grand Melee, which I'm sure I'm not going to get to proc right here when I'm recording. But we'll see. 3, 2, 1. Let's see. Nope. There's Shark-Infested Waters, a.k.a. Ruthless Precision. But that'll lead me over to you saw that Roll the Bones just costs energy and has a cooldown now. No longer is this a build and roll the bones and build and roll the bones. Now you still, obviously when you build and spend finishers, you're reducing the cooldown of Roll the Bones because it's part of Restless Blades, which yes, does stack with Buried Treasure, because not Buried Treasure, but True Bearing rather, sorry. So that will give you even more combo point reduction in Restless to get you Roll the Bones again if potentially you only rolled a True Bearing. But almost all the Roll the Bones now, it's maintenance, or you'll obviously hit it on cooldown borrowing energy because it does cost 50. Skull and Crossbones again. The other big one is Grand Melee. Now, obviously, we went over before, as you have Slice and Dice baseline as all rogues do now, which isn't in the base rogue book. I don't know why. But Grand Melee, I'm just going to use combo points here if I can get this back up real quick. Grand Melee now, which currently was the attack speed plus leech. Now it's your finishing moves grant you 2 seconds of Slice and Dice per combo point used. Or if you have Slice and Dice active, just adds time to said Slice and Dice. Of course, I got True Bearing. Well, we can watch the cooldown reduction, of course, right there, because it's going to cool down even faster. So you can get, I have seen 2+ minute Slice and Dice, which is a little silly. If I can get it to roll right now, that would be great. I did! He's done it. So now watch the Slice and Dice timer up here. Let me kind of make it on a darker background. So I added time to it right there. Let's add time to it again. Basically, once you get Grand Melee to proc, it still has, it's in the database, it still says it adds your leech, 15% right there, so that's correct. But if you get Grand Melee to proc, you basically just store up tons of Slice and Dice, which feeds in, of course, to everything else, that you don't have to actually cast Slice and Dice. But this is the rogue, right? If you've ever played XCOM before, that's XCOM, baby, that whole, I have an 89% chance to hit, which means you have essentially an 89% chance to miss. That's the meme. Even though it's only 11% chance to miss, you miss every shot that has a huge ratio. And then I have a 32% chance to hit, and then you hit and crit and kill the Muton. It's XCOM, baby. But the way that Outlaw plays, it does play in that sense that you are rolling the bones, you are reacting to the buffs you get. You are now able to just build and spend and reduce the cooldown of Roll the Bones to re-roll them, but you're not wasting a finishing move to re-roll them. Whereas on live, you are. You're dunking combo points every single time, so you're never using a dispatch or in between the eyes, which is now also very changed, which now smooshes it all together again. It's still a combo point finisher. It is no longer a ranged stun. As you saw there, I used it a couple times already. It does not stun your target anymore. Bdoink. It increases the critical strike damage taken from the rogue by 20%. Now, this also is weird because it reads on this tooltip that it increases the critical strike chance and critical strike damage against the target by 20%. So we're not sure if that's properly working, if it's giving the 20% crit and the damage. The tooltip, of course, just says the damage. So we're going to imagine that alpha will alpha. And of course, as you see, it does cool down with other finishers. So you get this DPS sort of judgment window back also faster. So you are rotating between reacting to your Roll the Bones. You're keeping Slice and Dice up. You are cooling down between the eyes. You are gaining additional critical strike damage and critical strike chance against the target you're hitting. The between the eyes interaction with the Blade Flurry window is that obviously crits that do more damage echo stronger damage in the AoE sense. So this does work whether you're targeting the main target and you between the eyes them with Blade Flurry up. You will then, any crits on that target are double damage plus 20%. So those would also hit harder in the window. And of course, you see there, the critical strikes from between the eyes will deal 4 times normal damage. That interplay is still there. So that leads me back to things like Ruthless Precision, Shark Infested Waters, aka, that has 60% critical strike chance on Between the Eyes. So it's very possible that you could roll Ruthless Precision and Broadside, or Ruthless Precision and True Bearing, and hit a 4.2x times, if it crits, damage Between the Eyes inside the previous Between the Eyes window. And Vigor and Alacrity accelerate that even more on top of Slice and Dice. So this interplay is very much there, but that also leads me back to Killing Spree again, because if you debuff your target with the window, and I was doing things like this where I would have, let's just put all my buffs up, where I was storing up 5 combo points after Between the Eyes is up and going into, so like this window followed by a dispatch, all with, I didn't have, doesn't matter right now, I'm not AoEing anything, the demon's too far away. So debuffing the target with Between the Eyes, then going into the Killing Spree, coming out of it, all of course in AoE form, essentially, right? The 5 target cleave form, and then a big old dispatch. And in the dungeon, I don't know what was doing this all. I was running deeper stratagem as well. But I was getting, at this level, at 50-51, you see how big hits are right now, right? 400, 500, lots of 100s, right? The new number squish is pretty low. But that 1400 crit right there is a pretty big one. I was seeing nearly 3k dispatch crits with combining the whole thing. So that's going to be a lot of huge potential in the stacking effects. It also brings into maybe Ghostly Strike will be okay on like patchworky fights, because you can combine Between the Eyes windows and Ghostly Strikes and even just Blade Rush and Killing Spree windows for additional burst. I'll tell you what though, the spec starts to fly off the handle when you do things with Alacrity and Weapon Master, or at Quick Draw and freaking Vigor. So if I'm waiting for my dice to cool back down here, you can always take a load of dice to gain a guaranteed double roll. So I was doing, let's go with like, be able to get Slice and Dice up, do a 4-pointer here real quick. But the spec can get real fast, real quick. But that's just how, that's Outlaw, baby. Holy crap. I only hit 1 GCD there, but I think I double tapped it. And I'm getting Grand Melee on top of it, so I'm getting free haste as well. And we slowed down. Oh, Adrenaline Rush ended, of course, but... Now, if I had Alacrity, it'd be full stacked right now, but obviously loaded dice gives you the guaranteed double roll. And we'll, of course, we'd roll again here. Shark-infested waters. So if I did... The big thing I've heard feedback for about Death from Above, obviously, Death from Above, Killing Spree rather, poor Death from Above, is that it A, kills you, and B, it's a tough window to get back in. I wonder if you have to run Deeper Stratagem for that, or both Vigor and Alacrity. Maybe Quick Draw for guaranteed. I don't know. There's something there. There's something meaty and juicy and really gunking up the works for how the Between the Eyes window works now, as you can... I put in my notes here. So crits with Between the Eyes will deal 4 times damage. So stacking things like, say, Ghostly Strikes and a Night Stalker Vanish, and you roll Ruthless Precision, and you're in the previous Between the Eyes window. You can have, and an on-click Trinket. You can stack all this stuff together. If you're a much better rogue than me, as many of you, of course, will be, I'm just trying to share this information with you. There's a crazy interplay there with all of that. And of course, what if you've got Blade Flurry on? Then that Between the Eyes huge potential crit will Blade Flurry off as well. That's of course just how Outlaw plays. Lots of RNG in there and how you react to it in there. Even though you can RNG, but there's like a ratio to it, right? Where getting those multi buffs, getting the roll the bones all works together, where eventually you still get those crazy moments of power, and that's the baseline kit, right? Normally, you have to have a cooldown for a class to feel like, wow! But baseline Outlaw, depending on what you roll, does that by itself now, even more so because of this change, because of Roll the Bones no longer eating your combo points, because of Restless Blade stacking together, because of baseline Slice and Dice enabling you to gain more main procs, as well as more combat potency, which feels into more Sinister Strikes, which feeds into more Weapon Master procs, which feeds into more... That's Outlaw Rogue, baby. You lost your range stun, albeit toxic. But you gained your poisons back. You gained Shiv. You gained the additional ability to remove enrage effects and have a huge slow on demand. I think there's a lot of potential here. And of course, you're still the rogue with Gouge. But the other rogues don't have it, and they're definitely a little salty about it. But let me know in the comments down below what you think of the Outlaw Rogue, if I've missed something, or if you think there's going to be some huge potential for some crazy playmaking. Because again, a lot of what is happening in Shadowlands is raising that skill ceiling a little bit, and maybe bringing up the skill floor a little bit, so that players that can really shine with reacting to their moment-to-moment power spikes, with knowing what the boss is doing or the encounter they're at, and all these things led them to like, oh, I just hit this crazy. And once you get more gear, right? Once the gear goes up, and maybe what if mastery is a thing? So the offhand damage you're getting because you're in Slice and Dice window all the time, and I don't know, like all this stuff. Let me know what you think down below. And if down below you're on the way down that page to type something, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel right here, then if you enjoy my rambles here, check out the other videos we're doing on the Shadowlands Alpha. There's a lot of stuff. We'll be doing this for the next many, many months. I test live every day, looking for your feedback and your thoughts, and sort of sponging up the community, you know, feelings towards all this stuff at roughly 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday right now. Channel guide has all of the back-end archival stuff. That's that. All right. Monks are next. Thank you very much for listening or watching, following along, helping me out, enjoying testing. See you all in the next video.